Good afternoon and welcome to your news on KB1. For the News First team, I am Shehan Manatunga. First up, let's take a look at your headlines.
Mother and 2 children dead after a house catches fire in Alayapattua, Anuradhapura. Father of the family hospitalized. Amount to be spent per voter by candidates increased by 5 rupees. Severe trade union action to be launched if rigorous tax scheme is not withdrawn, trade unions warn. Controversy at the Buddhist and Pali University once more. Student Theros allowed to discuss matters. Human Rights Commission to take legal action against officials, including CEB chairman, for failing to follow directive.
Now on to your top story. A woman and her 2 children died after their house in Alayapattua caught fire on Thursday night.
Thank you,
The house located in Mahamankadawala, Alayapattua had caught fire at approximately 11 p.m. on Thursday. The Newsfirst correspondent said a family of 4 lived in the house and the woman and her 2 children were sleeping in one room and the woman's husband was sleeping in another. The police spokesperson SSP Nihal Talduwa says that the woman's husband had made attempts to rescue his family. However, he was injured by the inferno. The deceased woman was 33-year-old Nishanti Hemalata. Her 10-year-old daughter, who died in the blaze, was a student from the Alayapattua National School who sat the grade 5 scholarship examination. The youngest in the family, 5-year-old Venuja Navod Jayaratna, also died in the tragedy. The injured father was admitted to the Alayapattua hospital and was thereafter transferred to the Anuradhapura teaching hospital.
Two workers at a tea factory were injured following a fire that broke out at the premises. The tea factory was located in Vatakedeniya, Kurunduwatta in Kandy, and Sri Lanka police said that the Kandy Fire Brigade assisted to contain the spread of the fire. The 2 injured workers were admitted to the Gampala hospital for treatment and the cause of the fire is yet to be determined.
Sri Lanka's election headquarters.
The National Elections Commission has decided to increase the amount that a candidate can spend on a voter to 20 rupees per person as per the new regulation of the Election Expenditure Bill.
The National Election Commission earlier decided that a candidate can only spend 15 rupees per voter following the passage of the regulation of Election Expenditure Bill. However, the NEC has now decided to increase that amount to 20 rupees. The National Election Commission told Newsfirst that the relevant documentation to print the ballot paper for the 2023 local government election was directed to the government printer. Commissioner General of Elections Saman Sri Ratnayaka said that the ballot papers prepared based on the nominations that were submitted for the local government election will be directed to the government printer by the district returning officers. Government printer Ganga Kalpani Lianage told Newsfirst that the district level ballot papers are currently being printed. She said that the government printer is equipped with the sufficient stocks of material required for the printing of ballot papers and ensured that there will be no shortage. She went on to note that the other necessary documentation required for the local government election are also being printed by the government printer. Here are some of the views expressed in the political sphere on the upcoming local government elections.
The people want an election. This is something they demanded. They intend to remove all rulers that led our country to bankruptcy. At a moment everyone is expecting an election, the government is planning to evade it. Certain incidents have shown that they are against it. The elections must be held on the 9th of March. If it is held, we will secure a massive victory. Even if it is not held, we will demand for one and win.
අපි විශිෂ්ට ජයග්‍රහණයක් ගන්නවා ආණ්ඩුව ඡන්දේ නොතිබ්බත් ඡන්දේ අරගෙන හරි අපි මේ ජයග්‍රහණය මේ රටට පත් කළ දෙනවා.
We are not concerned about the election results. Our priority is securing the lives of the people and guiding the country out of this crisis. If we disregard it, I don't think there will be anyone left to even cast a vote. As the Finance Ministry, our responsibility is bolstering the economy. The objective of this government is preserving their power and not addressing the woes of the people. If you go to Golface now, you will see how much they are spending on celebrating Independence Day. What are they doing celebrating independence in a country with people who cannot even afford meals? They are staging an Independence Day parade to preserve their power.
තමන්ගේ බලය තියාගන්න නිදහස් සංදර්ශනයක් පවත්වන්න හදනවා.
ලියලා තියාගන්න රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ අවසන්.
Ranil Wickremesinghe will use his last breath to ensure this election is postponed. He won't even call for a general election. He will gather the SLPP, ask for their support in turn, giving them assurances of entering parliament once more. 2 commissioners of the NEC had received death threats over the phone that can be traced within an hour. These are Ranil Rajapaksha's traps. That is the final option.
Ranil Wickremesinghe gave oaths placing his hand on the constitution, claiming he will protect democracy and the freedom of the people. But he has turned into the prime suspect who is disallowing the people to exercise their franchise. Did the government purchase paddy from farmers last season? No. Were they given the fertilizer subsidy? No. Did they reduce the price of seeds? No, they did not. Did they not do that because an election was held? The NEC itself says less than 10 billion rupees will be spent on the election. 7.9 billion rupees were allocated through the budget by Ranil Wickremesinghe for elections. Was that a lie?
Senior Professor Basanta Attukorala says the expenditure for the upcoming local government elections will benefit the country.
The simple idea of 10 billion rupees being spent on the election is that the GNP of the country will increase by 10 billion rupees because that money will be used to pay wages and for other matters. That expenditure is a fruitful economic activity. It will affect the economy positively. If elections are held, foreign election monitors will arrive in the country, bringing in foreign currency. Black money in the possession of political parties and individuals will also be utilized for election campaigns.
Now in other news, the Black Protest Week carried out by the Professionals Trade Union Alliance concludes today. 15 professional organizations representing state sector medical officers, university lecturers, banking officials, engineers and other professions announced the Black Protest Week on the 23rd of this month, opposing the medicine shortage, rigorous tax regime and several other matters. They warn of severe trade union action if the matters highlighted are not given sustainable solutions.
The second generation organization convened a media briefing yesterday and claimed that the latest tax regime is unfair. The 35,000 rupees that was taxed is the amount the people use for their daily needs. The electricity tariff was increased, water usage tariff was increased, and after settling these bills, pumping fuel, spending on children's education, what is left is this amount for food consumption, and that money was looted by the government. We urge the government to recall this tax regime. A country cannot operate without revenue. However, the people are not at fault for that. The rulers are burdening the people on purpose. They are trying to send millions out of the country. The government has no mandate to continue with this form of governance. We urge them to remove this unjust tax regime.
Now, the Sri Lanka Nidahas Sevaka Sangame of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation handed over a letter to the President's office requesting for the immediate withdrawal of the tax regime that was imposed recently. Now moving on to some other news. The Satyagraha Campaign launched by the Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation seeking the reopening of the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka continued for the second day today. The Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation commenced a Satyagraha campaign seeking the immediate reopening of the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka on Thursday at 1 p.m. opposite the administration building of the university. The IUBF claims that the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka was closed down in order to amend the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka Amendment Act number 37 of 1995. In addition, the IUBF is demanding to reverse the decision taken to terminate 39 students and also release the Secretary of the Student Union of the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka, Venerable Talava Dhammika Thero. On Friday morning, 5 representatives were allowed to engage in talks with the university administration. Now in other news, the human-elephant conflict continues to take its toll on the remote population in Sri Lanka. On Thursday, locals from several villages in Polonnaruwa protested, demanding a solution to this perennial issue. The human-elephant conflict has affected the lives of the people living in the Alahara and Samagipura villages, and the situation is worsening by the day. They allege that their pleas to officials to solve the issues have gone unheard. The people living in both these villages protested on Thursday, demanding a solution to the issue that has affected approximately 400 families. The villagers claim that wild elephants from the Dambulla Forest Reservation are encroaching on their property.
News First with the people.
The body of a young man who was reported missing after a boat capsized in the Diyavarna Oya close to the Sri Lankan Parliament was recovered this morning. The police said that a body that was floating on the Diyavarna Oya was recovered on Friday morning, and the deceased was identified as an 18-year-old male from Rajagiriya. A police spokesperson SSP Nihal Talduwa told Newsfirst that 4 people were aboard the boat when it capsized and 3 of them were rescued. The police spokesperson said the group of 4 men from Rajagiriya had taken a boat ride on the Diyavarna Oya during the early hours of Thursday to catch fish. Now in other news, 1 person had died when the water pressure on the pipes laid from Mavanella to Adaduava was being inspected. Water pipes are being placed along the section road from Adaduava Crossroad Junction to Hinguala area, and locals allege that no safety measures are in place to ensure the protection of people using the road, especially those travelling on foot. A 70-year-old man was walking along the road, died after he was washed away by the gushing water during an inspection of the water pressure on the pipes. Eyewitnesses said that the water pressure pushed the man into a nearby canal, leading to his death. The deceased was identified as SS Jayaratna, a resident of the area. The Cooperation Afloat Readiness and Training Bilateral exercise successfully concluded in Sri Lanka on the 26th of January.
CARAT 2023 was hosted by the US Pacific Fleet in partnership with the Sri Lankan Navy. The CARAT 2023 exercise was held in Colombo, Trincomalee and Mulligulam from the 19th to the 25th of January. The closing ceremony was held on board the USS Anchorage at the pier side of the Colombo harbour under the auspices of the US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Pereira, and US 7th Fleet Vice Commander Rear Admiral Joaquin J. Martinez de Pinillo. CARAT Sri Lanka is a bilateral exercise between Sri Lanka and the US designed to promote regional security cooperation, maintain and strengthen maritime partnerships, enhance maritime interoperability, and preserve a free and open Indo-Pacific region. The bilateral exercise was augmented by the Sri Lanka Navy, Sri Lanka Coast Guard, and Sri Lanka Air Force. In addition, the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force and Maldives National Defense Force also attended as observing partners. The exercise consisted of both land and sea phases, where SLNS Gajabahu and SLNS Samudura of the Sri Lankan Navy conducted naval exercises with USS Anchorage of the US Navy. The exercise conducted in the sea phase mainly focused on divisional tactics, visit board search and seizure operations, replenishment at sea, overhead reconnaissance exercises, gunnery exercises, photo exercises and steam past exercises.
Now, Sri Lanka's Human Rights Commission has received a letter bearing the signature of the Managing Director of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation stating that the present financial situation at the CPC could lead to a disruption of operations at the country's oil refinery. The letter noted that the CPC is heading towards a situation where future fuel imports will be in jeopardy as fuel is continuously provided on credit. The letter from the CPC Managing Director notes that this could lead to another fuel crisis in the country. The letter bearing the signature of the Managing Director of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation states that it is paramount to ensure the continuous operation of the country's oil refinery when providing a continuous supply of fuel. It noted that though the CPC can provide furnace oil and naphtha to the Ceylon Electricity Board at a cost that is less than what is incurred when importing fuel, an issue is likely to arise in importing new stocks of crude oil and refined petroleum products, as the existing stocks are provided on credit despite the CEB still not settling its dues. The Managing Director of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation says that several rounds of discussions revealed that the CEB does not have the funds to procure the fuel. It notes that despite the difficulties experienced, as the supply of electricity is a national requirement, fuel worth 111 billion rupees was delivered to the CEB. The letter added that though the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka agreed on the 25th of January to amend the electricity tariff, the CPC could have been able to provide fuel for a continuous supply of electricity if the PUCSL had reached that decision at the appropriate time. The Managing Director of the CPC states that the CPC is one of the leading government institutions that is engaged in state activities, and upon considering all sectors in the country, it is committed to the supply of fuel without any disruptions. Now, the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka says it will elaborate facts to the Supreme Court against officials including the chairman of the Ceylon Electricity Board and the secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy for breaching an agreement by suspending the supply of power. A senior official attached to the commission says complaints were received from multiple areas of the island regarding power outages yesterday, going against the agreements reached to provide a continuous supply of electricity.
Speaking further, the HRCSL official said it has been observed that the CEB and the Ministry of Power and Energy are operating arbitrarily, going against the laws of the land. According to the spokesman, the United Nations Human Rights Council will also have to be notified in this regard. Following a discussion held at the HRCSL earlier this week, the CEB agreed to provide a continuous supply of electricity during the period of the GCE Advanced Level examinations. Meanwhile, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, directing a letter to the chairman of the HRCSL, says that it will not approve power outages occurring during the period between the 26th of January and the 17th of February. It notes, according to the settlement issued as a directive by the Human Rights Commission, the CEB has been instructed to maintain a continuous supply of electricity during this period. The Human Rights Commission emphasized that if the CEB does not act according to the directive, the HRCSL has the ability to act according to Section 21 of the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission Act No. 21 of 1996. Despite these developments, power outages were experienced in many parts of the island last night.
Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka, Dr. M.H. Nimal Karunasiri, said that an agreement was reached to ensure that no power outages will take place even after the advanced level examination. He said that legal action will be instituted against the parties that violated this document I beg your pardon, that violated this documented agreement.
The chairman and the officials of the Public Utilities Commission and the CEB agreed that there will be no 2-hour power outages during the period of the advanced level examination. This does not only apply to the period when the examination is taking place, but for the entire duration of the examination. They agreed there will be no power outages so that the students can study for the exam. That directive was violated, and the Human Rights Commission can report this to the Supreme Court on the basis that a directive was disregarded. We will act on that today. If not, there is no use in having a Human Rights Commission if these directives cannot be respected. If they cannot fulfill this promise, that is something separate. However, they agreed to our directive. Now they say that they did not agree to such a thing. We have documents that were signed by the representative of the chairman. These chairmen cannot act irresponsibly. We will file facts with the Supreme Court.
The private plaint filed with the Fort Magistrates Court against former President Maithripala Sirisena for failing to prevent the 2019 April attacks despite receiving credible information about the attacks was postponed to the 17th of March.
An individual who lost a limb in the attacks on the St. Anthony's Church in Kochikade on the 21st of April 2019 and Reverend Father Cyril Gamini Fernando had filed the case against the former president. When the case was called up on Friday, Sirisena did not get into the defendant's dock and remained out. President's counsel Rienzi Arusakularatna, appearing for the plaint, directed the court's attention to the incident and raised objections. President's counsel Faiza Mustafa, appearing for Maithripala Sirisena, noted that the Court of Appeal had suspended action in the private plaint filed against his client and therefore his client would not get into the defendant's dock. However, Fort Magistrate Tilina Gamage pointed out that the Court of Appeal had ordered the Magistrate Court to read out the charge sheet against the suspect and take no action until an order is issued by the Court of Appeal. The Magistrate noted that the Court of Appeal had not issued an order preventing the suspect from getting into the defendant's dock and ordered the court official to announce the suspect's name, summoning him to the court. Thereafter, former President Maithripala Sirisena was seen getting into the defendant's dock.
And with that, we wrap up the news for now. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Shehan Ramthunga. Thank you for watching.
Across all walks of life,